Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Halo 5 Legendary Lone Wolf walkthrough. This is mission 8, it is the Sword of Sanghelios. And it's a pretty cool mission, this one. I think it's a beautiful level. A really, really nice level to look at. It gets me. It gets me every time, it truly does. The feels, as the internet memes like to say. But this mission is pretty standard for the most. However, it reminds me of a mission that is not standard at all, that has one of the worst checkpoints in the game, and literally nearly made me cry. It was so horrible, guys. I suffered so much. Like, you've never felt the kind of pain that I felt, because I'm so much more important than everyone else. You know, it's a rough checkpoint, and it goes on for far too long. But right at the beginning, you can hear the terse words of Captain Locke, or whatever rank he is, as he tells us to use our weapons to suppress the Covenant. And over here, that is a breakable wall. So there you go. This is a little shortcut if you want to get to a safe spot. And I believe up here is a weapon that is actually good. So yeah, it leads you to a carbine. Love that kind of design. Really, really fun. That is an elite, so we need to be careful. But look at the dodge, dude. It changes the game so subtly, but it's so good. Like, I can't go back to a first-person shooter without a dodge now. And the thing that I think Halo really nails is there doesn't seem to be any recovery on the edge of it. So there's no bullshit at the start, there's no startup, and there's no bullshit at the end where you can't move. Advanced Warfare had a dodge, but it punished you for doing it. And I hated that, because it made you feel heavy and it made you feel immobile. But on this game, you literally feel like you're straight up Oni from Street Fighter 4 doing that weird air push thing. It feels great. And I want it to go the other way now. I want the ability to have multi-dodges, so you can dodge more than once, and to straight up turn the first-person shooters into Vanquish. Like, what Vanquish did for third-person shooters was amazing. It gave you the ability to not have to hug cover. There are moments where cover is a great idea, but for the most, if you're aggressive and you know how to roll cancel, you can stay out of cover, go into slow motion, use the AR suit's functions to deal damage and be mobile, and never have to play like a bitch. And I love that. And it even works on God Hard, it's just a little trickier to do, which is a difficulty that is incredibly difficult if you've never played it. But I want that in a first-person shooter, because we haven't really seen it. The closest we've come is probably Titanfall, which has got, you know, terrific movement, but that is a game that is almost exclusively about those machines. And I don't want it to be about the machines. I like the skirmishes, personally, and the machines are great and everything, but I played Lost Planet 1 for a very long time online, against Japanese rank 99s. I've played a lot of that kind of game. So, you just don't need it. But in a first-person shooter where you have high mobility, it brings the execution level so much higher and the skill ceiling rockets. Because if you can keep your aim on a guy who has the ability to quickly dodge, to a direction that you have to read or predict or react to if you're really good, and you can keep that aimer on him, it's going to separate you from the dudes who, like, you know, can't move both sticks at the same time and have to stop moving to turn. You're going to be so much higher than that average kind of player. And I just think that that sounds like a great idea. And as far as difficulty goes in campaigns, if you give yourself a dodge, and heaven forbid you give yourself iframes in that dodge, the things you'll be able to do will make it so much more interesting to play. Like, if this dodge had iframes, the last boss would be a bitch. I would show you how to own him without ever moving. Because all I would do is counterpunch him. I'd be shooting him, wait for the attack, and I'd just dodge through it. Shoot him, wait for the attack, dodge through it, and there would be nothing he could do. And it would be amazing and glorious, and I would say this boss fight is completely fair, because I'm going to dick him with my superior iframes. But that's just not how first-person shooters work. That's not the brain that goes into the design of them. So they'll never be about that. They'll never have parries like I want them to have, like I wish Destiny had. They'll never have that handheld shield from Elysium that the South African bounty hunter guy has that's fucking cool as hell. Like, they'll not have these great things that could, you know, evolve this genre. Instead, stick your chin on any ledge you can find and shoot from your forehead. Because that's realism, that's what people want, that is what the consumer needs. You must buy this game. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and I'm happy to say that Halo's made it. Even though other games have tried it, they just haven't got it this well, I don't think. But this game could really kill for a perk system. I appreciate that it doesn't want to do it because it's kind of its closest rival's thing, but you don't even have to call them perks. You know, you can call them something else. You can call them something, you know, ridiculous, like most of the things in this game. I have no idea what you would call them, but you could. And I think it would just add an extra dimension of just something worthwhile to do. Because I like having things happen, you know? On a base level, testing my gun skill and my ability to hide from bullets is a decent challenge. But testing my knowledge and awareness of a game's systems is so much more rewarding and interesting for me, I think. I don't know, like, can you imagine if you could have a setup that made your bullets do more damage but made your lasers weaker, and vice versa, so you could actually augment your character for the enemies you were fighting, and you could do it on the fly? Like, every time you go up to a piece of intel, Locke brings his forearm up and he starts typing on that computer on his heads-up display thing. Sean Bean just interrupted my fucking commentary with his O2 bullshit. But every time he's typing on that thing, that could have been a menu that allows you to swap between some kind of attachment, some kind of equipment, anything. It could be those redundant shoulder pad things that half of the Spartans seem to wear that might be jetpacks, might not be jetpacks. It could actually have their packed lunch in it. We don't know. Or do you? Maybe you've read all the books and you know all that shit. I don't know. But just give us something. You know? We've done this a lot. We've done what Halo is a hell of a lot. So at this point, why not? You know? You're already going to ostracize people with this game because there's features in it that they're already, some of the purists have been like, it's not fucking Halo, you should go suck a dick. Halo's about sucking dick. I like sucking dick. I'm not gay. It's the most manly thing you can do. So those people are super angry, you know? It doesn't do this, it does that, I'm not touching it. It's not Halo, it's this, it's that. There's a bunch of blogs at the moment being how this is just not a Halo game, which I always find really fun to read because they've never got comments, they've never got views, but it's always somebody like, I'm incredibly opinionated and you should listen. Which, is that any different to what I do on these videos? Maybe not. But at least I'm showing you how to beat a game and occasionally telling you what I'm doing in the video. But, like, there's a lot of negativity towards this game. A lot of it is probably fanboys of opposite consoles. Like, people are giving the game shit for all the technology and engineering that's happening behind the scenes to make sure the game runs at a consistent frame rate. But at least it runs at a consistent frame rate, and that is more important. So all those people being like, oh, it's not this, it's not that, are just short-sighted neophytes who have absolutely no idea, and they're just, you know, doing that stupid sheep mentality of following all those other people because they think it's cool to bang on other consoles. And don't get me wrong, PlayStation 4 is superior in every way. I don't know why this is an arguable point. It just is. You know, it's a better machine. Be careful, snipers. See that just then? That is what snipers do. That was one shot, by the way. Very dangerous, but very fair. Way more fair than Halo 5. In Halo 5, I was dead then. So, this is definitely a return to form in difficulty for snipers, because they were pretty neutered in some of the other games. So I'm happy that they're nice and strong. And I've got my carbine, so I'm quite happy. But getting a headshot on some of the jackals can be very tricky. But you see that? You see that red cross? Whenever you see that red cross, it means you've killed somebody. So if you get it after one shot, it means you got a headshot. It's wonderful. I was looking in the menus a few times to try and turn on the scoring, because I really hope this game has Halo 3 scoring. Because not only is it fun and interesting to see medals popping up a la Turok Rage Wars, but it also tells you when you've killed something. And it's a really, really good piece of feedback for a player that makes the game more interesting. And every game should have something like that. Like, I would love to be the person who designs that kind of mode. Get a team of guys, have a really fun, you know, brainstorm, or whatever politically correct word you have to say now, like mind shower or fucking intellect dancing. And if you don't know what I'm poking fun at, apparently brainstorm is like a scientific term for what happens to people's brains when they have seizures or a certain illness or something like that. Like, essentially, the people who were very politically correct, and when political correctness went insane, they were saying that it was insulting and prejudicial towards certain disabled people, so you could no longer use that term in, like, professional industry, which I think is fucking stupid, because it's been around forever, and so has the issue that it's documented. We just changed the wording. Like, it's one of those people, you know, those people that tell you that certain diseases didn't exist 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and you're like, yes, they did, we just didn't have the science to name them. people just died. Like, come on, dude, don't say that. Don't be those people. My grandma's wonderful for that, and she was a nurse for quite some time, so you would think that, you know, she would have a different perspective on it, but, like, she thinks The Clockwork Orange, the movie, invented rape, which is pretty crazy, and I hope she's just trolling me. You know, I hope one day she's going to be like, can you remember that time when I told you that that one film created that one heinous crime that's been around for forever, since men had dicks and since women could say no? Like, yeah. Well, I was just fucking with you. But she'll never say that because she completely abhors swearing. This is a woman who read 200,000 words of my novel, and the only real criticism she had, because she didn't know it was me that writ it, so we got her 100% honesty because we lied to her. Her only real criticism was there was too much swearing. She thinks that the author who wrote it should take out some of the swearing, and there wasn't that much swearing, guys. It was always for a purpose. But she does not agree that swearing can ever have a purpose. She just doesn't think there's any need at all. And I disagree, and that's fine, but that's how she thinks. But I just hate that you can't say this anymore because we're all so fucking sensitive now. And it's similar with the blackboard joke that I made in the Assassin's Creed video. Like, when people say whiteboard, I don't think, oh my god, you are suppressing my race in some way. But I've got a good reason not to think that, I guess, because I'm white, and white people haven't really been oppressed or subjugated in a massive way outside of, you know, certain war events. You know, a blackboard shouldn't be offensive, I don't think, but I suppose it's a little bit easier to understand because there is that history of suppression of black people, which fucking sucks. And if it was up to me, it wouldn't have existed, but it's not, you know, I'm just a dude on the internet. But the fact that you couldn't say it in schools? Like, I knew someone who got a detention for saying it in school because you weren't allowed to, and all these things you're not allowed to say. And if you've never been to one of my videos before and you're wondering why I'm talking about all this world bullshit instead of talking about the gameplay, it's because the stuff you're watching right now is typical Halo fare. There is nothing here you cannot do as long as you have the ability to put your aimer on people's faces and pull a trigger. So instead I talk about random things that are on my mind at the time. Sometimes it's stuff that I wish I hadn't talked about because I don't think it was, you know, going anywhere or served any purpose. But the one thing I do is I'm honest and I commit. If I do a commentary where I talk about dicks for an hour, I've talked about dicks for an hour. I don't feel good about myself, but that's just where it went. But if you've ever watched my videos or you're aware of my personality, I'm not a big fan of being censored in any way, shape or form. I am a person who, like a lot of people, when you tell me not to do something, I want to do it. I don't know why I'm like that. I don't know where that trait comes from. I don't know why it's so human to be that way, to have an issue with authority, to have an issue with superiors. I don't know why. I wish I didn't have it. It's terrible. It's the type of thing I probably need the military to beat out of me. But even then, I think I'd still be the dickhead who has to do way too many push-ups. Because A, I can't do push-ups, so they'll probably give me more. And B, you know, I can't stand people who do that. Like, I just can't. There's a part in me that just rebels immediately. And especially if they're not intelligent enough to keep up. Like, how many times have you had a manager who was dumber than you? And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way, you know, not everybody has to be smart, you know, people are smarter in other ways. But I'm talking that person where you said something to them and they made a joke about what you said because they didn't understand it. And instead of being like, what does that mean? They were immediately defensive because they're not the type of person who wants to, you know, enrich their own knowledge or their own, you know, vocabulary or anything. They don't care. All they want to do is you know, work 9 to 5 till the weekend and get pissed and, you know, cheat on their husband or whatever. Like, those kind of people. I can't fucking stand it. If you are not my peer and you are not my equal and you're in charge of me, we're going to have a bad time. Unless you're fair. I suppose I should really preface that. If you're fair and you're a nice human being, we'll have no issue whatsoever. But how many bosses do you know who are fair and nice human beings? Because unfortunately, a lot of the traits of any boss in any job is that they're not your friend, they're your boss. And some people take that personally, which you can't in a lot of ways. But I'm talking about those managers that we've all had that will sit on arse and do anything to get out of work, yet the moment you're not doing something, they're on your ass. The people who go in the office and are on the phone, like, talking to the fucking girlfriends or boyfriends or insert friends about bullshit stuff and not doing anything, they're the people that I'm mentioning. Just horrible human beings who, you know, have never really earned anything and have been given a little bit of power from working up from being a foot soldier, and it's gone to their head and it's just warped who they are. By the way, there are snipers here, very dangerous, but find out where they are and punish them accordingly. Like, they're pretty quick too. I like how fast these snipers are. You know, Uncharted could really have done with snipers like this, and that game would have been crazy harder. But I don't like being told you can't say things, and being told I can't say things under these, like, postmodern social justice nonsensical reasons. Like, if I was a black person and you said the word black, I wouldn't think skin. I just don't understand where that's the first jump. Like, if you said a racial slur, then that's different. We might be fighting. But, like, even then, you know, if you were singing a song, is that bad? I don't know. It's this weird minefield of things, and I don't really get any exposure to it where I live, because I live in literally the whitest place on the planet. Like, outside of Alaska, it doesn't get much whiter than this. It's crazy. And when you do see any other ethnicity, it's kind of weird. You're like, wow, those people have got really nice tans. Only it's not tans, it's just where they were born. Like, but the whole, you can't say blackboard, you can't say brainstorm, you can't say nitty gritty, dude, really? Just because somebody decided to call that the detritus that gathered at the bottom of the slave ships, it has some kind of racial slavery connotation? Fuck you, dude. It's like the dumbest, most innocent, playful word that exists. Nitty gritty. It sounds like a piece of fruit that's got a smile and googly eyes. It doesn't sound like, you know, oppression and hatred. But they force it on it, and this word now becomes something different. And it's like swearing, cursing. I curse a lot. I don't do it because I think it makes me sound cool. I'm not one of those people. I do it because I think it's funny. And I'm sorry, it's immature, but it is funny. There are certain times where I think you shouldn't use it, because when you use something too much, you solemnize it, you remove the value of it. But I never think, or have ever felt, that swearing somehow validates anger or enriches any kind of resentment. It just doesn't. To me, if you're swearing to prove an angry point, or trying to hurt somebody, you're already losing the argument because your composure's gone. But if you're swearing because adding a fuck there tickles you, then we're like blood brothers. And I do think there is a fine line between too much and too little. Like, if you're the type of person that uses it as like an audible pause, so you'd be talking and like, and then I went forward and like fucking, and you know, like fucking, and then I went and then fucking, because all you're doing there is going, and you're finding the words for the next sentence, but instead you're doing it with the word fuck. But I fervently believe that if we did not turn a term like fuck, like an insert swear word that you don't like or that you think's offensive, if we didn't make it a pariah and condition into our children that these words are evil and bad and somehow negative, even though a word is essentially just a construct of language and it has absolutely no malice in it, if we didn't do that, it wouldn't have that impact. And it probably wouldn't even be a word people use that much. But the moment you tell somebody they can't do it, or you tell somebody that it's wrong, or it's edgy, or it's bad, then their inquisitive nature, or just their rebellious nature is going to come out, and boom, they're going to use it, and want to use it, and want to know why they can't use it. Like, somebody tells you can't do something, my brain goes, why? I'm like that little girl from the Animaniacs. Why? Why? Okay, I love you, bye-bye. That's how my brain functions, and a lot of people's does. Some don't, and those people are lucky. But if you have that inquisitive mindset, you know, why can't I say cunt? What does cunt mean? What is a twat? Even though Americans kind of go like twat and make it sound really strange, which it's got to be like, you've got to give it the gutsiness. Twat. It's got to be sharp, angry, twat, like that. You can't be going twat. He's such a twat. Like, is that like 4 A's? How does that sound even work? Twat. Like, you sound like you're being exalted mid-word. By the way, there's a really rough checkpoint here, so if you're wondering why I'm being a coward, it's because when you push up, you get a bunch of elites that spawn, and the checkpoint here is a little bit longer than I wish it was, considering how plentiful they were before this section. But I don't understand it, and it's... I had a really interesting conversation with my girlfriend about children, because, I'm getting old. It's getting about that time where I should really settle down and do something with my life instead of wasting it on video games. But I'm probably never going to. But we were just talking about kids, and when a kid is young enough, they're essentially tabula rasa. I believe, anyway. I'm not too sure if everybody does. I would like to think you do, unless you're one of those people that thinks everybody's born in sin, so you need to get a priest to wave his wet dick at them and cleanse them of evil, because they inherited it from their father's semen. Yep, read the Bible, it's in there. But tabula rasa, if you don't know, is just a pretty weird way of saying a terrible MMO that was cancelled. No, it's a weird way of saying an empty slate. It might be Latin, I don't know, guys. I just know of the term, and I think it's a really nice term. It makes me think, for some reason, of Thunder from Killer Instinct, because I think of kind of like a big chief warrior. Maybe an Aztec warrior, slightly different. Obviously, he's a Native American. But that's what it makes me think of. It makes me think of a big, burly, Turok-looking motherfucker who would own you and probably take all your women. But it means blank slate, clean slate. And it essentially means that everything you are, and every nuance of you, is somehow learned or conditioned from your environment. So the things you're afraid of, the things you love, the things you know, all of it is an act of conditioning, both conscious and subconscious. So you are never truly bad, you're just instinctual. Like, you have all that reptilian bullshit that kept us alive for generations so we could evolve. So you'll see something that your brain perceives as a threat, and it will send a rush of endorphins into you and give you the fight or flight reflex, and depending on your particular personality, you'll either try and step on it and stab it, or you'll try and run away. And that's kind of how it works. It's the same way that babies come out of the womb and know how to swim, because they lived for a very long time in liquid. They learnt to breathe it. They breathe the water inside the womb. And we can't do that anymore, and I wish we could, because it would be great. But there's no way I'm learning to do that. I saw The Abyss. The shit was terrifying. Actually, it's just called Abyss, isn't it? James Cameron. Never forget. But we were talking about, of all things, masturbation. So this is a sticky topic, get it? Because it has a negative connotation in society. A lot of it stems from religion. Touching yourself felt too good. People wanted to actually get something done during the day, so they told them if you did it, you'll go blind and God will hate you. So people were like, I don't want to go blind. I don't want God to hate me, but it still feels kind of good, so I'll do it on the sly and lie about it, which is what I hope they did. But it is this topic that every healthy person should do, but a lot of people don't because of bullshit, really. Because of propaganda, because of nonsense, because of allegories. No real reason at all. There is no reason not to do it. Not only will it help just your system in general, the cycle of your system. For men, it can help your urethra, it can help your prostate, it can help your stress levels. You know, it does wonderful things. However, it has this dirty, filthy, shameful association because of the way we've twisted it and we've warped it. And not you, I'm not pointing at you over there, or me, our ancestors. And through conditioning, we're raised to think it's bad. And it's not our parents' faults, and it's not their parents' faults, it's just that's the way of the world, and peer pressure's a motherfucker. So Danielle, my girlfriend, was mentioning that, you know, there are girls that from a very young age, like, rub in between the legs, because it feels good. And they don't know why it feels good, there's no, like, sexualness to it, because they don't even have that sexuality, they don't have that impulse or those hormones, or they might have them to a slight extent, but not the way that you get as an adult, because essentially we are cattle that are meant to fuck. That is what we do. So there's this really weird moment of that baby's kind of masturbating, and it obviously feels good because it does it. But then there's that moment of, what does the parent do? Does the parent move the hands away? Does the parent tell the baby that it's wrong, that it's to stop, that it's bad, that you shouldn't do that? How do they convey to that child that they're doing something wrong? Because they're not. They're doing something that is almost the most natural thing to do in the world. But we've shaped it into this evil thing. And it's that weird moment of, even me, somebody who I like to think is quite open, like if my daughter started, you know, getting busy with fizzy in front of me, I don't know how I'd be. I like to think I'd kind of be like, well, if you want to do that, honey, you want to go to your room, kind of thing. You know, not be like, oh my God, you're going to burn. I hope you die. I'm going to crucify you. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I'm never going to be that guy, but you know what I mean. Like, how would I respond? And how would you get across to the child that that is personal time, you know, that is not for you, but not give them all this bullshit that we have, all this insecurity, all this dick fear if you're a guy because your dick's not big enough, or your balls are too small, or you ain't got pubes, or whatever bullshit that guys go through. Same with girls, you know, you don't have boobs, your boobs aren't big enough, you know, your bum's too big, whatever it is, all this kind of stuff that we've poisoned our minds and our culture with. How do you avoid it? And how do you at least not become the arbiter of the reason why your children are fucked up? Because if you think about it, the number one job as a parent is to fuck up your kids. The number 2 responsibility as a parent is to not fuck them up too much. Like, the things that you give to them and the experiences that you share and the way that you sculpt them is to make them ready for the world. And it is no doubt going to fuck them up in some way. But it has to be in the best way that you could possibly do it. And I just find that responsibility crazy, which is why I never understand people that just have a baby, you know? To me, I just don't feel worthy of it at all. I don't feel like I have anything to pass on. Any worth, any quality. I still haven't figured my shit out, let alone this new person who's so much more important than me, that relies on me to survive. I can't imagine flippantly being like, oh yeah, I'll just jizz in your quim and here we go, we'll get an house. Like, that to me is just the ugliest mentality, because like I want to bring value to someone's life. I don't want to destroy it. And like, I'm baffled by when people are like, oh yeah, she's pregnant, having a boy and all this, and it's just like the most cavalier attitude in the world, and I'm stood there thinking like, dude, you're practically shit on the bottom of my shoe. You are one of the worst people I've ever fucking met. You're stupid, you have no skills, you have no ambitions. What the fuck are you gonna give that poor kid? Like, you are literally going to ruin his future. And I know it sounds horrible, but, you know, you don't know this person and he's a horrible person. But it's just that moment, isn't it? Of like, I can't believe you think you have anything of value to pass on. Like, and that's 100% me, that, like, straight up being elitist in a lot of ways. Because I'm the kind of person who fervently believes if you have nothing of value and you have nothing to bring forth, like, what the fuck are you doing? Find something you love, dude. You know? That's why I don't really like people who are hateful in a antagonizing way. Like, I could say the most hateful, crazy, ridiculous shit, but there's always an air of hyperbole and there's always an air of silliness to it, unless I'm being completely serious, and you'll generally tell, because I'll be saying it to your face. There'll be none of this internet bullshit. I don't believe in that. By the way, this is 2 hunters, and you're not going to have the best weapons to deal with this, so just get on with it. You know, flank, use your positioning. I never died on this fight, so it should speak volumes that it's not that challenging, but the hunters can kill you. They're very lethal. Oh, there goes one. Now there's just his buddy. But kids are an interesting discussion, I think. And I do believe that your mentality will change when you have them. Like, I will probably be, you know, I'll turn into a massive, just gentrified bitch version of myself when I have a kid. I can see it happening. I can see myself being super protective, being super, like, afraid all the time, and just massively paranoid. Because it's just the way I am, like. I'm a worrier for things. I'm an overthinker, and you know, when it's to do with me, I'm the best person at ruining my life, hands down. I have a gift for it. But when it's someone else's, that responsibility's too high to fuck that up. And you just do your best, don't you? Because there is no guidebook, there is no video walkthrough series with handy commentary. You're not going to get that. And everybody thinks they're the best at it, everybody thinks they've got their own thing, and everybody likes to share that. And it's just that thing of you forge your own path and hopefully you do the best you can. And you prove me wrong. That's the best thing to do in that sentiment, like, prove me wrong. Because when I remove all of my cynicism and all of my ire and all of my misanthropy, there is a really optimistic part of me that wants our species to succeed and that wants us to do great things. But it is clouded by just how fucking ugly and savage and evil we are at almost every opportunity. So if you are a nice and kind person, good on you, dude, and dudette, because this world is full of assholes and shitfests, and there's too much of it. And it'd be so much better if we helped each other, and we at least fucking tried, and we dreamed, and we aspired for things. But we'd rather stab you in the back, or rob an old lady, or sneak into a fucking bungalow and, you know, take shit so we could buy drugs and further our own selfish ambitions. It's just madness. But enough of that, because I'm digging holes, and I don't want to dig holes. This is Halo. We don't dig holes. We make massive spatial structures. But I have a carbine and I have a plasma pistol. I don't think the plasma weapons do great damage against the hunters. And this guy, I don't know what he's doing. He looks like he's doing that Hugo... What's that guy's name now? Hugo Mars, is it? He's doing that dance from that one video when he's kind of shuffling. It looked like he was doing that. But there's your checkpoint. There's your dead hunters. And then we can progress onwards. I am curious if there's any way to really kill the hunters super quick. Like do a fully charged ground pound to stun it and then shotgun it in the back and it instantly dies or something. That'd be great. I don't think it will work that way outside of like piss easy difficulty. Ooh, there was a fuel rod. That could have come in handy. Learn from my mistakes, guys. There's a fuel rod there. Grab it and use it. Also in here there is another grenadey thing. That could have come in handy. I don't know. I never feel like the hunters are all that fun anymore. You know, because you fought them so much and the fight is so very similar. You know, keep your distance and pick at them. You're like some douchey canary. It really isn't that enthralling. And speaking of a section that's not enthralling, this is the Mantis. I believe this was introduced in Halo 4. I could be wrong though, guys. Not a Halo dude. This is a automated section of Carnage. You are in an automatic machine doing automatic things, and you're on autopilot for the most because you're not really at any risk of dying unless you play horribly. Keep your distance, strafe a lot like it's Serious Sam, and use your guns and you lock on missiles, and then introduced to the concept that your gun overheats and you have to wait for it to recharge, and your lock on missiles take far too long to regenerate to fire, and then when you fire them they don't actually kill things, so it makes it feel really underwhelming. And I spoke about this sequence earlier on, basically saying that there are good sections in games where you're in a big empowering robot doing big empowering things, and there are bad sections. This is the example of a bad section. Do you know a great section? Turok 2. When did that come out? 98? Something like that. 98, 99. N64. The golden days of first-person shooters. There was a sequence on level 2. It was called the River of Souls. And I never got past it legitimately without cheats because I sucked. But at the very beginning, you rode on the back of a Triceratops that had a shoulder-mounted rocket launcher and a cannon. And not only could you destroy the scenery, but when you fired at these enemies that took a hell of a lot of damage to kill, it burst them. It turned them into big splashes of crazy-looking blood, and it was wonderful. Look at the team! The team are in the, I forget the name, is it a Wraith? They're in the Covenant tank, and they're not doing anything. They're blocking the path and about to get instantly killed. Look at that nonsense, you stupid idiots. Why would you do that? Oh, that was cool. But that game had a really good vehicle section, and that is one of the oldest vehicle sections I think I've played. I think before that it might have been like Medal of Honor for the PlayStation 1. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think. When do you think the first vehicle section was? And when I say vehicle section, I mean on-rails shooting slash vehicle-y thing. Like, of course, the games had driving sections in first-person shooters every so often and weird shit like that, but I'm talking straight up, you know, kind of canned environment, riding some kind of unconventional vehicle and shooting shit. Like, can you remember those 007 games for the GameCube and I think the PS2? 007, I think Agent Under Fire was one of them. Another one was it Nightfall? They were really weird first-person shooters because they were kind of good, but then they were also kind of shit. Like, the bullets on them were really slow, so you could see each individual bullet flying. It was like sending carrier pigeons at someone. Really weird. But there were some cool redeeming features of those games. Like, one of my favourite James Bond games was the World Is Not Enough game, if anybody played that. It was one of those unofficial sequels to GoldenEye, but it wasn't made by Rare, and it was pretty awkward and rough in a lot of ways. But I thought it was really satisfying to use the guns on that game. But there was one mission, I think it was called Night Watch, Mission 5. It was a stealth mission. It was horrible. It was really, really pedantically difficult, and it ruined that game. And I was stuck on it for so long. And every level before that was just straight up running and gunning and James Bonding, and it felt super cool. But that one mission, miserable encounter. And the split screen multiplayer for that was really fun as well. But the N64 had some great first-person shooters considering it didn't have a dual analog setup. I really respect that machine, and I love it, I do. I've got mine behind me on a shelf It still has the Ocarina of Time console sticker on it, which has a Goma, the first boss, the arachnid creature. But this area is frequently checkpointed. You're not going to have too many issues. It's just long. It's just long, and it's not that satisfying. And I'm really curious to see what like Lummy thinks of these particular sequences, or just various Halo guys, because vehicles are as important to Halo as the guns themselves and the shooting sections. So to have very peculiarly different vehicle missions is definitely going to be an interesting pill to swallow for a lot of people. And I'm just curious to see how it gets, received. Because the reviews so far are incredibly positive, but a lot of the reviews nowadays, you can't really do anything with them. Like, they tell you so little. I've never, ever in all my life read 5 pages worth of a review and learnt so little. Like, they talk about some of the most superfluous shit. They really do. And then when they're saying things that are bad about the game, it's generally, like, weird, nonsensical stuff that some people won't even think is an issue. Like, we got into a multiplayer, but half of our team quit, and then we had a really tough time winning, which is a really negative thing about the game. It's like, well, no, that's just people online being dickheads. They'll always have that. You know, in a town as big as Texas, you'll always have traffic. But what's the big fucking deal? Oh, Melody Sheep, I do love that man. So just keep shooting stuff. And pushing forward. And we're actually going to meet a familiar face here. And I don't know what they've done to him. He looks so much like Rex in this game. They've given him like Sugar Puff armor. It's insane. And I believe, is he voiced by Keith David? The Arbiter? The Arbiter! God, Halo 2. I'll never forget Halo 2 because I was playing it while I was texting a girl that I was hoping to get with. And my phone is shitty, so you had to, like, it was old school texting where you pressed the button like 9 times to get to different characters. I absolutely hate it. And it used to take me forever to text because I refuse to do shorthand bullshit. I'm not the person who breaks the English language on a text. You know, I put punctuation in, I do full words, I'm an idiot really. So it takes me a decent while to write a text, so I was just... and there's that section when you're flying the Banshee. And I'm texting this girl all the time being like, I'm in here, I'm gonna get some of the punani. And never did. Well, technically, I suppose we did a bit of foreplay, but I don't really count that. But still, like, you know that moment where you're super optimistic that you're not going to be single anymore, or at least you're going to be able to get into that velvet warmth that our species craves so much? Oh, the optimism at those moments. And then it crashed and burned, pretty much, because she was a fucking weirdo. But, you know, maybe she thought I was a weirdo, so onwards to better things. But yeah. And what do you feel if you've never played a Halo game and you're just watching this as a spectator and listening to my stupid commentary? What do you think of this particular section? Is it something that makes you want to play it? If you had the game and you'd not played this sequence and you could just hop on right now and go straight into it, would you want to? Does it look interesting? Is there something here that makes you want to play? Because aside from the beauty of the game, like, it seems just really generic for Halo. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I think Halo is one of the most generic first-person shooters ever created, and how it got so big is beyond me. I think it's probably the multiplayer at the time, because there was a lot of console linking. Like Lummy from the old podcast, that guy cut his teeth on Halo multiplayer, and he's one of the best Halo players I know. Like, in fact, he is the best Halo player I know. And he used to play a lot of that, and he's got so many good memories of going to this place quite close to us, where they just console linked Halo all day, and he would go and compete and what have you. And I think I'd respect the games a lot more if I'd have known him then, and if I'd have been into it then. But I just, not me at all, just didn't. Played all the games online a bit, ran with some strong players who really liked it, but never really liked it myself. And a lot of people say the same thing, like, it's probably because you sucked at it, and I'm not going to blow smoke up anyone's ass, I'm not the best Halo player, but I have good gun skill. So, I've led lobbies on every Halo game I've played. Like, you know, I have good games, I have bad games, but I would never consider myself a great Halo player because I'm not. A, because I don't enjoy it and I have no investment. And if I don't have investment, I don't want to get better. If I don't want to get better, I'm not going to get better. But thank you very much for watching. 39 minutes, dude. This shit's not easy, but thank you for watching, and if you got this far, you're a legend, so you take care now.